True story. All parents need to see this. A daughter's desperate act shocked the entire town. They say a mother's love knows no bounds, but what happens when that love is tested by cruelty, silence, and impossible choices? What Nadia's daughter did next left an entire community speechless. Before we continue, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. If you're ready, let me take you to the moment everything changed. Nadia was only 19 when she became a bride. Her groom, Rashid, was a man 15 years her senior, a man who saw marriage not as partnership, but as transaction. She would provide him heirs. He would provide shelter. That was the unspoken contract. For the first 3 years, she tried everything: perfect meals, spotless floors, obedience without question. But nothing satisfied him, because in Rashid's eyes, Nadia had committed an unforgivable sin. She had given him daughters. First came Layla, bright, curious, always reaching for books instead of dolls. Nadia cherished her. But the day Layla was born, Rashid turned his face away from the hospital bed. When their second daughter, Amina, arrived 2 years later, he didn't even come to the hospital. 2 more mouths to feed, he muttered coldly, refusing to even look at the baby. Nadia learned to live with the insults, the cold shoulders, the nights when he wouldn't speak to her for weeks. But what she couldn't bear was watching her daughters absorb the poison. One evening, after he scolded her for burning the rice, Nadia sat on the kitchen floor, her face buried in her hands. She didn't hear 8-year-old Layla approach until small hands touched her shoulder. "Mama?" Layla's voice was barely audible. "Why doesn't Baba like us?" Nadia's heart cracked. "He doesn't hate you, my love." "Yes, he does." Layla's eyes filled with tears. "Because we're not boys. If I were a boy, he'd love you more, wouldn't he?" The words hit like a physical blow. This child, this innocent, beautiful child, believed she was the source of her mother's suffering. "Never say that," Nadia whispered, pulling Layla close. "You are perfect exactly as you are." But even as she said it, she knew the damage was done. Her daughter had already internalized a terrible truth. In their world, girls were worth less than sons. What Nadia didn't know was that Layla had already decided to do something about it. The next afternoon, Layla walked home from school in silence, her mind churning with a dangerous idea. She had overheard something during recess, something that made her pulse quicken with terrible possibility. "Did you hear?" 2 older girls whispered near the water fountain. "They found an infant at the community center. Just left there in a cardboard box. A boy. The police are looking for whoever abandoned him." Layla's breath caught. A boy. An abandoned boy. Her father wanted a son. What if she could give him one? The thought consumed her for the rest of the day. By the time darkness fell, she had made her decision. That night, while her mother slept fitfully and her father worked late at the warehouse, Layla slipped out of the house. Her heart hammered as she navigated the empty streets, heading toward the community center 3 blocks away. The building was locked, but Layla had watched the maintenance worker enough times. There was a side window that never quite latched properly, small enough for a child to squeeze through. She landed inside with a soft thud, her bare feet touching cold linoleum. The building was eerily silent. She crept through hallways lit only by emergency exit signs until she found the room everyone had been whispering about. And there he was, wrapped in a stained yellow blanket, so tiny he barely seemed real. The baby made no sound except soft, shallow breathing. Layla's hands trembled as she gathered him up, cradling him against her chest. "You're going to fix everything," she whispered to the sleeping infant. "You're going to make Baba love Mama again." She had no idea that by taking this child, she had just triggered a chain of events that would destroy everything, or save it. By morning, chaos erupted. The community center director discovered the baby missing at 6 a.m. Within an hour, police cars lined the street. By noon, officers were canvassing the neighborhood, knocking on doors, asking questions. "Have you seen anything unusual? Any suspicious activity near the center last night?" Nadia heard the commotion from her kitchen window. Her stomach knotted with unease. Something felt wrong, terribly wrong. Then she noticed Layla's behavior. Her daughter, usually chatty in the mornings, sat at the breakfast table in complete silence. She wouldn't make eye contact, and she kept glancing nervously toward her bedroom door. "Layla?" Nadia approached slowly. "Is something wrong?" "No, Mama," but her voice cracked. Nadia's maternal instinct screamed. She moved toward Layla's room, but her daughter leaped up, blocking the doorway. "Please don't go in there." Cold dread washed over Nadia. She gently moved Layla aside and pushed open the door. At first, she saw nothing unusual. Then she heard it, a tiny whimper from inside the closet. Her hands shook as she pulled open the closet door. And there, nestled between folded blankets, was a newborn baby. The world tilted. "Layla," her voice came out strangled. "What have you done?" Her daughter's face crumpled. "I just wanted to help you, Mama. I thought if we had a baby boy, Baba would stop hurting you. He'd finally smile again." Nadia couldn't breathe. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be real. But it was. And now the police were searching the neighborhood for this exact child. They might think she did something terrible, something she didn't understand. Their family would be destroyed. Before Nadia could formulate a plan, sharp knocking shattered the silence. "Police! We need to ask you some questions." Nadia's pulse roared in her ears. She looked at Layla, at the baby, at the door. In that split second, she made a choice that would haunt her forever. She quickly hid the baby in a basket of laundry, covering him with towels, and covered him with towels. Then she turned to Layla. "Not a word," she whispered urgently. "Do you understand?" "Not one word." Layla nodded, terrified. Nadia smoothed her hair, forced her breathing to slow, and opened the door with what she hoped looked like confusion rather than panic. Two officers stood on her doorstep. Behind them, neighbors gathered, watching. "We are canvassing the area," one officer explained. "There was an incident at the community center last night. An infant was taken. Have you or your family seen anything unusual?" Nadia shook her head, praying her voice wouldn't betray her. "No, officer. We were home all evening. My daughter was in bed early." The officer's eyes swept past her, scanning the interior of the house. "And your husband?" "He works nights at the warehouse. He wasn't home." The second officer pulled out a notepad. "We found evidence of forced entry through a side window. Small entry point. Possibly a child." Nadia's blood turned to ice. "A child?" "We're speaking with all families in the area who have young daughters." Just as a precaution. His gaze landed on Layla, who stood frozen in the hallway. "May we speak with your daughter?" "She's only 8, Nadia protested. "She wouldn't—" "Just a few questions, ma'am." They had no choice. The officers questioned Layla gently but thoroughly. "Where were you last night? Did you see anyone near the community center? Do you know anything about the missing baby?" To her credit, Layla held steady. "No, sir. I was sleeping." After what felt like an eternity, the officers finally left, promising to return if they had more questions. The moment the door closed, Nadia's knees buckled. She sank to the floor, trembling uncontrollably. "Mama?" Layla's voice was small, frightened. Nadia looked at her daughter, this brave, foolish, desperate child who had tried to save her mother the only way she knew how. "We can't keep him," Nadia whispered. "We have to give him back." "But, Mama—" "No buts. If they find him here, you'll be blamed. They'll take you away from me." Do you understand? Tears streamed down Layla's face. I just wanted to help. I know, my darling. I know. But wanting to help wasn't enough. Now they were in danger, and Nadia had to fix this before everything fell apart. That night, after Layla cried herself to sleep, Nadia made a decision. She wrapped the baby carefully in a clean blanket, tucked him into a canvas bag, and slipped out into the darkness. Her destination was a small house on the outskirts of town, the home of Sister Fatima, an elderly woman who ran an informal foster network for abandoned children. Nadia knocked softly. When the door opened, Fatima's weathered face creased with concern. "Nadia? What are you doing here at this hour? I need your help." Nadia's voice broke. "Please." She explained everything in hushed, urgent whispers. Layla's desperate act, the police investigation, the impossible situation they now faced. Fatima listened in silence, then reached for the baby. "Go home," she said quietly. "I'll handle this." But Nadia, she caught Nadia's arm. "Your daughter needs more than this. She needs to know she's not responsible for fixing her father's cruelty." Nadia nodded, tears blurring her vision. "I know." "Then do something about it." With that, Nadia turned and disappeared into the night, leaving the baby in safer hands. But she couldn't leave behind the weight of what had happened, and she couldn't ignore the truth Fatima had spoken. Something had to change, and it had to change now. The next morning, Rashid came home from his night shift to find Nadia waiting for him at the kitchen table. Her posture was different, spine straight, eyes clear. "We need to talk," she said. He grunted, moving toward the coffee pot. "Rashid," her voice was firm. "Sit down." Something in her tone made him pause. Slowly, he sat. "What happened to the baby?" he asked. News of the missing infant had spread through the neighborhood. "Our daughter took him," Nadia said flatly. Rashid's eyes widened. "What?" "She took him because she thought bringing you a son would make you stop hurting me." Silence crashed between them. "She's 8 years old," Nadia continued, her voice shaking now. 8. And she already believes that girls are worthless, that I deserve to suffer because I gave you daughters instead of sons, that her existence is a disappointment." Rashid opened his mouth, but no words came. "Do you understand what you've done?" Nadia's voice rose. "You've filled our children's hearts with fear and shame. You've taught them to hate themselves. I never said—" "You didn't have to say it." Nadia's hand trembled as she placed it firmly on the table. "You showed it every single day. Every time you ignored them. Every time you looked at me with disgust. Every time you acted like this family was a burden instead of a blessing." Rashid's expression grew tense. "I work myself to the bone for this family." "For what?" Nadia interrupted. "So you can come home and make us feel worthless? So you can punish us for something we can't control? You don't understand the pressure. No, you don't understand." Tears streamed down Nadia's face. "Your daughter risked everything, her freedom, her future, her innocence, because she was desperate to make you happy, because she thought a baby boy was the only thing that would make you see us as family again." The words hung in the air like shattered glass. Rashid stared at his wife, really looked at her. For the first time in years, the exhaustion etched into her face, the pain pooling in her eyes, the defeated slope of her shoulders. "Where is the baby now?" he asked quietly. "Safe, with someone who will actually care for him. The police will find out eventually, and when they do, I will take full responsibility. I will tell them I took the child, not Layla, me." Rashid's head snapped up. "You can't." "I can and I will, because I am her mother, and I will not let your failures destroy her future." For the first time in their marriage, Rashid had no response. 2 days later, the police returned. They had new information. Witnesses had seen a woman leaving the community center area late that night. They had descriptions. They were narrowing their search. Nadia was ready. "It was me," she said before they could finish their questions. Both officers froze. "I took the baby. Not my daughter. Me." "Mrs. Nadia." "I found him abandoned. I panicked. I thought I could care for him, give him a home. I made a wrong decision, but it came from fear, not harm. But it was mine alone." The officers exchanged glances. "Where is the child now?" "With Sister Fatima. She runs a foster network. He's safe." Within the hour, they verified her story. The baby was indeed with Fatima, healthy and well cared for. But instead of immediate arrest, something unexpected happened. Sister Fatima arrived at the police station with documentation. The baby looked weak, as if he hadn't been cared for properly before. From before, he was abandoned. Fatima argued that Nadia had actually saved the child by bringing him into care. The prosecutor, after reviewing the case, made a surprising decision. No charges would be filed. The baby's birth parents were never identified, and if a suitable family could be found to adopt him, the case would be closed. Fatima looked directly at Nadia. "Well, what do you say?" That evening, the entire family sat in their small living room. The baby, now officially named Omar, slept peacefully in a borrowed bassinet. Layla and Amina sat on either side of their mother, staring at the tiny infant with wonder. Rashid stood apart, arms crossed, his jaw tight. "This is insane," he finally said. "We can barely feed ourselves." "Then work harder," Nadia replied calmly. "You expect me to raise another man's son?" "I expect you to be a father." Nadia met his gaze without flinching. "A real father, to all of your children." "I have daughters, not—" "You have 3 children," Nadia interrupted. "2 daughters who are brilliant, brave, and beautiful, and now a son who needs a home. The question is, are you man enough to love them all?" The challenge hung in the air. Rashid looked at Layla, who was gently stroking the baby's tiny hand. He looked at Amina, who watched him with cautious hope. He looked at Nadia, who had finally found her strength. And he looked at Omar, innocent and helpless. In that moment, something cracked inside him. Not broken, cracked open. He thought about his own father, a man who never expressed warmth, about the impossible standards he'd been taught to uphold, about the crushing weight of expectations that had turned him into someone he didn't recognize. Slowly, he knelt beside the bassinet. Omar's tiny fingers curled reflexively. Without thinking, Rashid extended his hand. The baby's fist closed around his finger. Something shifted in Rashid's chest, a feeling he couldn't name, didn't recognize, but couldn't deny. "Okay," he whispered. Nadia's breath caught. "Okay, we'll keep him." Rashid's voice was thick. "All of us, as a family." Layla burst into tears, relief, joy, disbelief, all mixed together. Amina laughed, and Nadia, for the first time in 9 years of marriage, saw her husband cry. 6 months later, the house was different now, not bigger, not richer, but warmer. Rashid came home earlier from work to help with the children. He sat with Layla while she did homework, actually listening when she talked about school. He played with Amina, taught her to ride a bicycle. And with Omar, he was gentle in ways no one had thought possible. It wasn't perfect. Old habits died hard, but it was real. It was trying. It was healing. One evening, as Nadia watched Rashid rock Omar to sleep while Layla read a story aloud and Amina drew pictures, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. Rashid caught her watching. Their eyes met. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For not giving up on me, even when I deserved it." Nadia smiled softly. I didn't do it for you. I did it for them. I know. He looked down at the sleeping baby. But you saved me anyway, because that's what love does. Real love. Not the kind demanded or earned, but the kind freely given. The kind that transforms. This story isn't just about one family. It's about all of us. How many times have we let tradition quietly break our connections? How many times have we measured worth by gender, status, or impossible standards? How many times have we waited for others to change when we had the power to change ourselves? Rashid believed a son would fill the emptiness inside him, but what he really needed was a heart capable of love. Sometimes life gives us what we need in the most unexpected ways, through the courage of a desperate child, through the strength of a woman who refused to break, through an abandoned baby who taught a family how to be whole. What would you have done in Nadia's place? Let us know in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, wait until you hear what happens next. Click here for another incredible true story that will leave you speechless.